You're listening to Thank Me for My Cervix, a podcast where we talk about all things mental health with a focus in the veteran and the military community. I'm your host, Marine Corps veteran Shauna Marie. And as always, you can watch my interviews live on Instagram, or you can watch the replays on Instagram or on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, Thank Me for My Cervix. And you can hear every episode loaded up on Spotify. So I'm super excited for today's guest. This is going to be a learning opportunity for me, and hopefully anyone watching can learn a little bit about this too. So I'm going to go ahead and get him on because he's here. His name is JJ Rivera. He is a USMC vet. So we're going to talk to him and get to know him and his condition. So let's go ahead and grab him on. Awesome. It always takes a minute. And then I talk during it and then it like glitches. Hey!
Hi.
How are you
Good afternoon.
doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Good. I'm so excited to talk to you and learn about this because this is all new to me. So we're going to go ahead and start with like a little bit of a background. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up and why you chose the Marine Corps.
All right. So I grew up in Massachusetts, Springfield, Massachusetts, so Western Mass, home of Basketball Hall of Fame and everything. I chose the Marine Corps mainly for the challenge. You know, most of us choose it, but I chose it early on in my life because I chose it right out of high school. And there was no second guessing what I was going to do with my life. It was the Marine Corps or nothing, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. So my parents signed my information. I was 17, headed straight to boot camp days after graduation because
Where did you
15 days after
where did you
graduation.
join out of?
Springfield.
Springfield. Okay.
I
Sorry, go ahead.
joined out of the Springfield RS with a bunch of friends, but I was probably one of the younger ones because I had my family sign for me and I didn't wait. I was like, I'm gung-ho for this. This is going to be my life, right? That was back in 2010. I went directly, like I said, out of high school. 15 days after graduation, I was on those yellow footprints and there was nothing stopping me from being there, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No
Awesome.
life decisions, no nothing.
Does Springfield, do they go to Paris Island or did you go to San Diego? Your boot camp?
Paris Island. I went down to
Okay.
Paris Island, yeah.
What month did you go?
June. I went early
June.
June. June 21st, I was on the island and I was that scared little, but I was motivated for everything, you know?
You went right before me because I went January, like very first January of 2011. So
Oh, by then I was at the schoolhouse. I was here in Jacksonville, over at Camp Johnson doing the supply schoolhouse
So
by the time you went.
supply was your MOS?
Supply administration was my MOS. I'd learned supply administration, but you know how the Marine Corps is, you never really do your job. So I learned more of the administration side of everything when I got TA'd over to Kadena on Okinawa, my first duty station. So I did a lot of administration for the Marines that I had out there. And so I learned that side versus actually doing the supply side.
So your first duty station was Japan?
Yep. My first duty station was Iwakuni. Yep.
That's wild.
Right. And it was fun, but I ended up not staying at the air station. I ended up going over to the Air Force Base because we had a small platoon that was a liaison to the Air Force Base, and I ended up being all the S shops for them. So I learned S1 through all S6. I was coordinating for my Marines and everything. So that's where I strategically placed myself in the long run, right? Because while I was slated as a supply Marine, I never really spent my time in supply. Even when I came back to the US after my time in Japan, I spent my time training for a deployment because it was the only place where they could set me in. I came down to 2nd Supply Battalion here on Camp Lejeune, and they had no shop to place me in. They were completely full with too many Marines. So they put me on a deployment, a small deployment, and I spent my time outside of the office doing my job because I was the NCO, so I knew what I was doing, but I wasn't completely focused with the supply aspect of sides.
Okay. Well, that's cool that you got a lot of general knowledges because I even know because my one of my good friends, she was like S3.
Right.
She kind of did it all though too. She learned them all. She was just in the mix of doing everything.
You get in the mix of
Yeah,
it.
and it's good there because you learn a lot of skill sets from that, honestly.
Absolutely.
So how long were you in? When did you get out? And tell me a little bit about that transitioning.
So I got out in 2014, just a few months after coming back from Afghanistan, because it was a small deployment for us. Back in that time frame, it was the let's get out of Afghanistan because everything was wrapping up for the Marine Corps back then in Camp Leatherneck and everything. So I saw the brief shutdowns of everything getting sent back, the tents getting dismantled and everything, and the base being turned over to the Army and to NATO. And I got back just in time to EAS and get out of the Marine Corps in June. And there were a few of us that ended up coming back a little bit earlier than our platoon just to get our process started and everything. But we brought everybody home and everything was perfect for us. So 2014 was the start of my civilian life because I didn't want to. I was on the rinks of a reenlistment. And looking back at it now with my condition is what stopped me from moving forward with it because my condition led to my PFT scores dropping. And when those dropped, the sergeant major saw it. She's like, you need to put more effort within your PT in order. And, as a Marine, we're going to push, we're going to do as we're told, and we're going to try to make it better. But it wasn't in my cards. There was a wall that I had hit and I couldn't get past that wall. So once I hit that wall, I decided I need something else out of life. I wanted the 20-year career, but I need to redirect because I can't push past this wall and there's something stopping it. And I see it better now after so many years of having my condition that looking back, my condition was what debilitated me and not pursuing a 20-year career.
Okay, tell me a little bit about. I don't want to jump ahead too much because I do want know a little bit more about your military career. Like if you
Hmm?
did anything exciting that you're super proud of, but I do also want to talk about what your condition is because I'm not familiar with it at all. I don't even want to like pronounce it before you do. I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let you say it
I
first.
got you.
I've heard the term before, but just like thinking to pronounce it, I'm like I'm not gonna try.
Okay, so multiple sclerosis, right? Everybody's heard of it. Everybody's seen somebody who might have the condition or has the condition because I hear it on a daily basis. When I'm talking to a lot of my customers at my full-time job and I let them know, they're a little astonished because I'm relatively well on the upper side of my MS. My condition was found early. I'm on some good medication that helps it stabilize itself and not progress. So it is a progressive disease and a progressive condition that debilitates the entire body. It is found either in the brain or the spinal cord. So it either attacks the lower body or it attacks the entire body. So what happens is our nerves have a lining. And for anybody with multiple sclerosis, our lining is fragile or sometimes it comes off. So you can think about it as like a TV cable. Once it comes off and it has a little nick to it, it's never going to work correctly, right? So our muscles and our condition means that our muscles can misfire. Our nerves and our pain come from our muscle. So it's not a physical soreness. While it is a physical soreness, it's a soreness that's honestly very internal for us. And it can be very debilitating, one, for our mindset, and two, for our bodies. Because sometimes our bodies don't want to react the way that they should. Like, I want to get out of bed, my legs don't want to move, right? I deal with a lot of, in my case, the restless leg syndromes, I'm flailing around the bed, and my wife can tell you, I'm a fish sometimes. On my bad days, I'm turning over. I can't sleep. I'm kicking. My arms are all over the place. And that's just my body not acting properly because of my condition. For me, my condition was diagnosed in 2016.
I was gonna ask
Um,
how you
and
got this diagnosis.
Right. So I was on a transition of life because after the Marine Corps, I developed PTS and I developed a couple other mental instabilities. So I spent a few years trying to reestablish myself, trying to get myself back to who I needed to be. But and within those years, I didn't know what was going on, right? And just at the brinks of me having a turning point, I get diagnosed. So April 2016, I got pre-diagnosed, but I got my full diagnosis in June 2016. And funny enough, it was June 21st. Right,
That's
right.
crazy. That's wild.
So 6 years after joining the Marine Corps, I get diagnosed with multiple sclerosis on the very same day, right? So it's wild to me that just like everything came around and everything like set its points because that date now sets itself for me in many various ways, right? So um, the way that I got diagnosed was I had lost vision in my left eye, just blurred vision. I attribute it to my contacts being old, or I had been using my contacts too much. So I changed out my contacts a few times. And during the week, still the blurred vision. I kept about my business. I didn't know what was going on. Finally, after like 2 weeks, I was like, I need to go see my doctor. I called up and made an appointment with my eye doctor. My eye doctor and his entire staff ran me through every test he had in the building, and he still couldn't replace it because my vision hadn't changed. My vision hadn't changed at all. So why am I blurred? And so they had a thought, and initially they couldn't diagnose it because they were just my eye doctor. They had to send me to somebody who could do like read the labs, read my tests, send me for an MRI, and actually diagnose me. So I got with another eye doctor. By the time that I saw her, my vision had come back. So it wasn't that I completely lost my vision. So that's one of the onset symptoms. And for everybody, their symptoms are different because this condition can often be misdiagnosed by something else. I have friends who have been diagnosed as having not Parkinson's, other spinal conditions that attribute to pains but aren't multiple sclerosis, right? And that's where it differs for everybody because we go through so many steps in order to find the right diagnosis because these pains are like no other. And my support system can tell you very well that sometimes it debilitates me that I can spend days knocked in bed because I can't stand up for myself. I can't move or I've overworked myself.
Is so there's getting a diagnosis doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean that there's like a they can't cure you. They can only help mediate.
Right. So we can only be have what's called as disease modifying treatments, DMTs. The DMTs are either an oral medication, a weekly injection, or in my case, I'm doing a chemotherapy sorts. So I do an infusion every 6 months that keeps me stabilized.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Yep. I
That
know
is
I've been doing it for now. I've been on my medication and stable enough for the last 5, 6 years. The staff that I have, and I just moved to North Carolina in 2022, at the end of 22, and my nurses and my doctor are in Boston. So I go back home and I visit family and I see my doctor in the time frame, and they all asked me, "You're willing to make this trip?" And I'm like, "You guys are the best. I'm not going anywhere." I'll make the trip even if I was halfway across the country because they know me, they've been there for me, they've seen my ups and downs and my highs and lows, and that's something that I can't take away from them because I can't start anew with somebody else that's going to change my treatment and try to treat it a completely different way when they've established me and they get the perks of seeing me every 6 months, you know.
Are they VA?
They're not. I'm currently still fighting compensation out of the VA because I was diagnosed within. So, multiple sclerosis with the VA is a presumptive disease because it's not something that you can visually see. It's of the brain or of the spine and can only be diagnosed through MRIs. And when it's in that consideration, the VA deems it as presumptive. It's presumptive that you have the symptoms. They have excellent services because they have the Multiple Sclerosis Center of Excellence for those veterans that are able to get that VHA and get that assistance from them. But it's kind of difficult because when your VSO doesn't know the wording as to how to get you your compensation, that's where we fall into place. And that's where I fall into place because I had a VSO back home and she had helped my grandfather get 100% back in the day and referred to because they were like family because um the owner or the head guy, he was one of my grandfather's best friends. So he wasn't going to let the family fall back. But my VSO, and like anybody else, my VSO put in the paperwork and I get a denial. And you know what we do when we get denials? We shut down and we're like, you know what, screw this. Let me not try this again. I'll figure it out on my own, right?
I had a full mental breakdown yesterday. Like,
Right.
you can ask my mom. I called her like screaming, crying because never mind. It's yes.
I
I'm gonna
got
talk
you.
about it on Thursday. So we're focusing on you right now. I
I
did
got
have a
you.
question though. I had
Mm-hmm.
a question.
Mm-hmm.
I need to start writing it down, but I keep my notebook up here so that I can look at it if I want to refer. But okay, hold on. Continue with your story, and if I think of my
I got
question, I will like.
you. I'm right here. We're right here. Just jump in whenever. I tend to blabble about this situation
No,
sometimes, so I'll keep going.
I'm
You know,
learning stuff. Oh, I did want to ask. So, did they say, do they know how you got this or
that's where
how
I
you
was
get
headed
this?
to
Ah,
next. That's where I was headed
that
to
was my
next.
question. And I was like, I didn't want to
No
forget it. And then I forgot.
Nobody knows how MS comes up. It is not it's not genetic. It doesn't come in my bloodline. I didn't know how it would come up because my family has a little bit of everything. Between diabetes, blood pressure, anxieties, and everything, I thought I knew how to take care of myself when those things arose because it's unavoidable. I might get something that my family has. It's genetics. Turns out I get the one thing that nobody in my family has. So I have to laugh about it some days. I got something that is not set out there to debilitate me because I had those. Because as soon as I got my diagnosis, the brain starts spinning and depression hits quickly. And most people with multiple sclerosis will tell you depression is a thing because on our bad days, we get so low that it might take us a few days to get back up, right? And even though that I might bounce back the next day, mentally, I'm still torn. I'm still worn out and I need to work on my mental stability and just to keep going, right? And those are the things that aren't foreseen because, like I said, in my condition, I'm walking, I'm talking, I'm moving, I'm agile, and I'm still functioning. But this disease isn't like that. Just because I'm functioning on a daily basis doesn't mean that the next person that has the same condition is doing the same thing. Because I have friends who are on walkers, I have friends who are on canes, and I have friends who are either bedridden or end up in wheelchairs, right? And those are the
Because
some of the
it's basically affects anywhere on the spinal cord,
right.
right? And your
So
spinal
if
cord
it
attaches to everything.
literally everything. So some people you can find it within their spinal cord. Mine, I have no lesions found within my spinal cord when I get my MRIs, but I do still have lesions within the brain because while the lesions might not be active and firing and misfiring, they're still there because they've already attacked my brain. So that portion of my brain still has those lesions. So anytime that I have an MRI, my doctor looks for the newer ones. What's new? What's not? What wasn't there? And what just got brought up? And how has this affected you today versus how you were doing last year? Because I see him every 6 months. So every 6 months we go through the workup. Blood test, making sure that my vitamin D, because vitamin D deficiency is also one of the conditions that I carry with this condition.
I actually just found out like 2 days ago that I have a vitamin D deficiency and that I have to start supplementing once a week for it.
Yeah, I'm on a prescribed dosage from my doctor because I need it more efficiently than what the over-the-counter stuff can do for me. Because if I were doing the over-the-counter stuff, I'd be taking 5 pills a day, and that's not what I'm about to do. I'm on
Yeah.
1 pill a week, and it's stabilized, but I have my fluctuations. That's why I moved down south. Because I need the beach and I need the sun. So if I got the beach and I got the sun, it helps me out a little bit better because jumping into the ocean and being able to just float in that salt water for a little bit helps relax the body from all the soreness that I have, especially on my bad days. And being 20 minutes away from North Topsail Beach, I'm okay with it,
Yes.
So
Me too.
I'm definitely okay with it.
Yes. I had one other question. Oh, no, I was going to say too, I'm getting an MRI done because I have a weird foot
Mhm.
condition and I, I'm nervous for my MRI. But it was really hard. It's been really hard for me to get my appointment.
Right,
It's been a struggle. So now I understand if I had a good doctor, I would be driving all the way
right.
for them too, honestly.
And that's one reason why I still haven't left my full-time job either, because the healthcare that I get and that I pay for through my full-time is so excellent. Because let me tell you, the price on my medication, it's a high price tag. I'd be bankrupt if I was paying for it myself and on a yearly basis. There's no way. And there are sometimes some of my friends, they can't pay it, and they're on so many uh, what's it called? Their payment plans that that it's ridiculous because our medication, especially for mine, since it is considered to them as a chemotherapy because I get an infusion, it's on a higher price tag.
I bet.
And that higher price tag isn't for everybody. And when you get that insurance that's willing to cover it completely, there's no way that I can step away from that. And that's what holds me to my full time sometimes, besides the photography and the artwork that I do on when I'm available.
Yeah.
So it's tough. And it's also something that's not talked about within the veteran community because if you looked at the statistics that veterans, you're looking at least, what is it? So the last poll was taken from the Multiple Sclerosis Society. It was 262 per 100,000 veterans that have MS.
Oh, wow.
Right.
I bet. I bet it's crazy misdiagnosed.
It's crazy misdiagnosed. It's pushed off because, like I said, especially us, we're Marines. They tell us if you go to sick call, it better be a good reason, right? And with my condition, I'm sore. After a session at the gym or a PT session at 6 o'clock in the morning with the platoon, I'm extremely more sore than most of my Marines. But I can't go to sick call just because my body's sore. They're gonna give me some aspirin or some Tylenol and tell me to go away, and that's the consideration there. Because in my record, I never went to sick call. I never went to medical. I didn't have a condition that I needed to report because I was at my healthiest. I was 18, 20. I was at my physically fit, and if I was sore, all right, go take a shower or
Exactly.
like we used to do, we used to just go out on the weekends and just drink it off, because that's who we were. We were young, we didn't know. So I wouldn't report it. I just keep taking the Tylenol, keep taking the painkillers, and just keep moving about my time frame.
That's what they tell
But if
you
you look,
to do.
that's
That's what they keep it.
and that's the unfortunate part because that's what they keep telling us. And they're
And
not gonna
then,
see.
though, then when you get out,
It's
they're
harder.
like, well, where's your medical records? You're
Right.
like, wait a minute, you told me not to go.
Exactly. Where's your medical record? We need this on paper in order for us to be able to process anything. And with multiple sclerosis being such a presumptive condition, there's no way to tell that I had the condition. But now, with my symptoms, with everything that I've dealt with the last 8 years of having this condition, it's established that my last few years in the Marine Corps, my body was dwindling down because my
Your body was telling you
condition,
there's
there's
something
something
wrong.
wrong, but I never knew it. I'm a little bit
No,
sore.
suck it up and keep going.
Exactly. Change your socks, keep going. We've got to continue this hike. We got to continue this run. We got to continue going. And that's the condition that we're forced
Which
into once we
I
join.
will say, I agree with. Finish what you're doing, but listen to your body too.
Right.
If you feel like something's wrong and you are pushing to your max and you are like, no, this is it, then stand your ground and say no and go talk to somebody.
Right.
Because that's your future that you're not taking care of by doing that.
Exactly. And it's the tougher part because they see that nothing went wrong while you were in. So how are you truly service connected, right?
Right.
Because you had nothing wrong with you. Why are you coming to us now? And that's the fight. Because
yeah, and so instead of getting the help that you need, getting the MRIs taken care of that you need, or whatever medical medicines that you need, you're forced to take care of that on your own. And that's why it matters. That's
right.
why we care. Because people are like, oh, like, I'm sorry, there's this one bug and it wants to fight me, and it's like really not. It's
Okay.
not doing. Okay. I think maybe I got it that time. I'm sorry. I don't even. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. No, but you're correct. They tell us to keep going, and that's the hardships, especially for those who are the older generation. So when I look at my paperwork that my VSO had done, she put in the presumptiveness of my condition, but the what got denied was the verbiage because she also threw in the Gulf War syndrome. Because within the Gulf War syndrome, this is most of the Gulf War syndromes are slating from back in the early 90s, right? Being in the Gulf War and all the conditions that stemmed from coming back from that. Because they were more mental conditions that weren't seen true to the eye because they weren't so physical. So she threw it in there. That's the condition and that's the wording that got me denied because we need to find more of that. What attaches it to the Gulf War syndrome? Because, yeah, I was in Afghanistan, but I also attribute Afghanistan to being a factor of what intentionally flared me completely and brought the disease, my condition to light. Because Afghanistan is hot, it's cold in the evenings, and we're sleeping in trucks, we're sleeping outside, we're up gallivanting with 100 pounds on ourselves, and we're just keep going, keep going, keep going, and then this is what arises out of it. And I'm on a veterans MS group on Facebook. There, last I checked, there's about 1,500 members, and we're all doing the same thing, asking who can help. Where can we get this help and how can we get our rating? Because the rating is there. It's above that threshold in order to get you that compensation for you and your family, but we're finding it difficult finding anybody who can attack the situation, who knows the situation. And there are a bunch of people who are out there who can help. Paralyzed Veterans of America are one of the greatest who deal with this condition, but I tried them. Not to say that they won't help, but in order for them to help, I have to join. I have to be a member. But why do I have to be a member when I'm requesting your assistance?
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and pay a monthly tab if
Yeah.
I'm not getting the assistance that I truly need.
Yeah.
And that's the downfalls.
Right.
And because
the VA should be helping you.
the VA should be helping us. The VA should be the one that attacks it. And yes, they have everything, but what are they doing to attack those who aren't being helped? Those who are struggling with their condition because they're not able to be helped by the VA. Not even because even if I was on a pension and I wasn't getting any of the medical services from them, at least that can offset some of that cost towards my medication.
Yeah, which is something that you should be able to do, I
Right.
feel like. Um, so if people are listening, do you know what people could do to help in this situation? For listeners that are listening, what could they do to help someone with multiple sclerosis?
Don't judge. A lot of people with that find out about this condition, they're quick to judge because they either have seen somebody, they know somebody, or and I've heard it all from everybody. Once I tell somebody, "Hey, I have multiple sclerosis, I'm in pain," they're like, "You're in pain? Like, why are you in pain? You don't know my difficulties. I live with them on a day-to-day basis. I smile because I'm determined to beat this condition. I'm determined to not be that couch potato, like my wife likes to say, because there are days where I will get up, I will sit there, and I won't move because there's nothing that's going to be able for me to move. My condition is there. My condition may not look like it's there, but accept it for what it is. If I can't lift that box, help me.
Yeah.
Don't judge me and don't compare me to the person who has my condition who's in a wheelchair because they've been through the same thing that I've been through. They're going through the same thing that I'm going through. The pains, the aches, the numbingness, everything is there. We're just in two different paths of our condition. And while our condition, if I wound up in a wheelchair, if I tried hard enough, I can get back to the cane and back to my stability. It's been seen. I follow a lot of people on Instagram that are motivation because they've been debilitated, they've worked their way up, but we still live with this condition on a daily basis and we can't let it fault us. Don't tell me that I could do better and talk to me, ask me about my condition. Don't just assume my condition because those are the things that can debilitate us. Those are the things that run through our mind on a daily basis. How am I going to be perceived when I tell you, hey, I have multiple sclerosis? I don't want to be perceived as weak. I don't want to be perceived as the man that doesn't want to do anything. And I don't want to be perceived as just a person who's always complaining. And those are the things that some people automatically throw in your face. Why are you complaining? You don't look like you have any condition. You don't look like this. You know, I can't and that's another reason why I can't step away from the doctor that I have because he's not about forcing the medication on me. He's about me knowing my body, me knowing what I need from him to get better or just stabilize the condition, right? Because I'll sit in his office and he'll be like, what do you need from me? Not, hey, this is what you're going to do. This is what you need. You need to change your diet. You need to take this pill. You need to do this, and this. Because a lot of doctors are like that. You know, they're going to just force it upon you. My doctor will not force it upon me. If I email him and tell him I need a change of medication, he will email me a prescription and he will email me what I need in order to make myself a little bit better because I know my body. He doesn't know my day-to-day struggles. He only knows what I allow him to know when I allow him to know it.
It skipped a little bit. Are we back?
Yep.
Okay,
I'm here.
I don't know if it was me or I don't know what happened. It skipped a little bit.
It skipped a little.
Yeah, I would say having a doctor that you can really rely on is so important. And I love that you found that. And yeah, I don't blame you for even
Right.
not answering my phone right now. Okay. Um, so on your, I want to ask you, and this is a little personal, so you don't have to answer it, but like on your absolute worst days, would you say that it's just like you're in bed and you can't move and you're just like you just want to stay there? Is that when your condition's at its worst? Is that what you would say?
So it can be a multitude of things, in all honesty, because and another reason why I moved down south is because I can't do the winters, right? I can't do the winters anymore. I had a winter that the temperatures got so low. So my condition, I can't do too cold and I can't do too hot. So after certain temperatures and everything, I can't spend too much time outside and I can't do certain things. So even at work, I've dumbed myself down to not working in a certain department because I can't work outdoors. I can't do above 80 degrees, and I've capped myself at 80 degrees because at 80 degrees, and some humidity, you're still hitting either 95 or 100, right? And then in some conditions, 50 can fall below 32. And those are the conditions and working outside in those conditions can be debilitating to me because my muscles won't warm up and won't flex themselves as good as I need them to be able to pursue the next day. And I had a few days where I overworked myself. I pushed myself to my hardest because that's who I am. That's the Marine inside of me. I'm going to keep going even if I'm in pain. But then when I actually sat down, I relaxed. My body said, we're done, and we're done for the next 3 days. So some days can be very debilitating where, yes, I'm in bed. But other days, it's the mental side of it. I'm in pain. I got to keep pushing, but I'm not mentally here. So my mental stability isn't there. So, and I apologize to everybody because my support system knows that on those days, I can be a very bit snippy. I can get
It's
very
frustrating.
aggressive. It's
There's nothing,
frustrating.
there's no cure. You're forever gonna have to learn how to balance working your body, not doing too much so that you worsen your condition, but still try to live your life to the
Right,
fullest, and and make money because you have to pay, for your
right.
family, and very snippy.
Very snippy.
I mean, I understand. It's so frustrating. One, being in pain all the time
Hmm.
without, I wouldn't say without an explanation, but like being like, I did this and I understand I should be sore, but I'm way more sore than I should be.
Right.
It's frustrating.
It's
And
very
especially when
frustrating.
you were a Marine, when you were
Right,
you were physically doing it all before. So
right.
I can understand where that anger, that frustration comes from.
And the frustration also stems for me at least. I don't like to ask for help. I don't like to ask for assistance.
Most
I'm gonna do it myself. I'm gonna get it done. Yep. And it's most men, most Marines, and it's all of us, right? We don't. If we're strong at strong words, we're gonna try to attack it ourselves without having anybody help us out. And and that's one of the things that I've had to learn in the last few years, especially in the last few years, getting married, having a daughter, and moving my family across the country. I need to ask for that help. I need to ask for that assistance. And I can't just yell at somebody, hey, I need help. No, I have to know and understand that if I'm going to ask for help, I have to be willing to accept it myself. But that's where the condition falls into place because I don't want to ask for help. So now I feel like I I'm asking for too much. And when I do ask for help, or hey, you're not doing it the way that I needed you to do it, but damn, I need the assistance. So what am I going to do to just sit here? So I just sit there in frustration and frustrated with myself because of it, because there's nothing else that I can do. Some days I don't have strength in my hands. There are days where I can't open a simple jar. And it frustrates me that I have to ask help on the simplest task. But if I
Yeah.
don't ask for help, I'm going to sit there more frustrated at myself that I can't do it than just saying, hey, you know what? I can't do it. I need you to do it. Just help me out. And then maybe I can just work with myself and keep my frustrations to myself versus attacking everybody else. Because it's happened. I've attacked everybody and I've attacked those people who have been there for me. But I'm sit here today with my wife always helping me, always wanting me to do a little bit better because she doesn't want to see me progress.
I
Because
know.
while I am stable, my daughter's going to be one tomorrow, and I have to run around chasing her. So I can't let myself debilitate myself and wind up in a wheelchair where I'm not able to do the things that I'm constantly doing with her, right? So those are the motivations and the motivational factors that I have to rely on for myself. And not everybody has those with multiple sclerosis because some people get shoved aside. You're asking for too much. You don't know the stories that I've heard of people ending marriages because their spouse has this condition. It's it's ridiculous, you know, and it shouldn't be happening, but it does happen. And that's the unfortunate part about it.
I love that you are speaking on that because because like I said, I had never even heard
Mhm.
really much about it. Like, oh yeah, I've heard of that, and sometimes they're in wheelchairs and sometimes they're not, and like it is it's something that I feel like maybe, and I'm gonna say this, and you can tell me yes or no, but sometimes people are like, I don't believe you.
Yeah, I hear it all the time.
I don't believe you. You're perfectly fine.
Right,
Everyone gets sore.
right,
Suck it up. Come
right.
on. And probably even sometimes to yourself, you're like, come on.
Hmm.
I can do this.
Right,
But you can't. And
but
that's
you
part
can't.
of it. That's part of the having that disease.
Right. And that's the unfortunate part about it because I've heard it throughout my years. I know folks who have been diagnosed and they've been 40 years in, 30 years in because they got early diagnoses. But I've also know folks who are in generations apart from me that are just recently getting diagnosed, right? I was early in my diagnosis where it got caught on time, it didn't progress. I got on good medication. I found the medication that works for me and has stabilized me, but there are others that are still trying to figure out what it is because, like I said early on, this disease is diagnosed as other diseases.
Yep.
And it sucks because you never know. The symptoms are so close, so alike, but you get diagnosed with something else and those medications don't work and you're forced into pain pills and you're forced into things. And these diagnoses can force a lot of people into some addictions as well
I
because
yeah,
we're looking to solve how do we get rid of this pain, you
from
know,
alcohol addiction, it can go anywhere from alcohol
anywhere.
addiction to drugs to yeah,
Right,
I bet. I do.
right.
So
And
what has been your VA experience so far? Do you have a rating at
I
all?
don't. I don't have a rating because I never had a rating. While I am still service connected because I am um, Afghan veteran, because I have that privilege. I'm there. I can go to the VA and see a doctor, but there is no rating because I haven't been established as having multiple sclerosis. I haven't been physically found on it because of those downfalls. And I attribute it to my fault because, like I said, I got that denial. I failed at myself because I didn't continue to pursue it. I didn't find anybody else. And since moving to North Carolina, I need that. I need that assistance, whether it's just the paycheck that gets paid out every month to offset something else so I can offset it off my plate and not have to endure the pains because I need to push further in at my job. I need to push more photography. I need to do more artwork in order to get that income in my family. If that offsets me, I would love it. But I'm not there yet because since coming to North Carolina, I'm trying to find somebody who can help me with that compensation, who can get that verbiage correct. I have everything laid out. I just need you to write it up because, as me and you know, if the wording isn't true to what they want to see, you're going to get denied.
Yep. Off of
And
his,
it sucks.
you could have every symptom, but if it's worded slightly wrong, they're like, oh, nope.
If you put an is instead of an and, you're
Yep.
done, right? And that and it's like if they're editing your paperwork at school and giving you a grade. Oh, you failed because you missed a word. Why? That's the
Yeah.
hard part. And that's why most veterans dislike the VA because we're trying so hard. We need that assistance.
Yep.
But you're telling us that I'm writing it the way that it's coming to my mind, and you're telling me that I'm incorrect. But then you tell me, okay, what are your symptoms? And if I explain them to you, You're telling me that they're not correct because they're not worded the way that you need them, that they're
Yeah.
worded on the paperwork,
It's such like a
right?
little
So
like
now,
vicious
right,
weird
right.
circle.
So now I have to remember not only what I put on there, but I have to remember to tell you the symptoms the way that they were put on the paper so I don't get denied. So I don't get my rating dropped back down, right? Because they do
Yep.
that too. You have a high rating, then they drop your rating because you told them, "Oh, I'm feeling a little bit better
Yep.
today." The day
Yeah.
that you went to the doctor,
Yep. You're
they need you to feel
so
your
they're like,
worst.
what's your back pain today, right
Right.
now? And you're like it's fine right now. And then they're
Right
like,
now
oh well,
because I just took 3 painkillers before walking in
yeah,
here. So
exactly.
they just hit. You just told me to take 3 before coming into the office. Now they just hit the system. I'm feeling good about myself, and you're telling me that my VA rating is going to drop because you told me to take the medication.
Yep.
So where's
I
the
really hate
struggle there?
Yeah.
Where's it's a major struggle. So there's no VA rating at the moment. I'm trying to find somebody who can do the paperwork for
Yeah.
me because I don't have the commodity of having the time. While I am trying to make the time between having a business, being an artist, a full-time father, and a full-time job for myself and my family,
Being a
it's a
parent alone
lot. It
is
gets heavy.
exhausting.
Right. Right. And while I am at work full time, the few hours that I have with her before work and after work, man, she's
I
exhausting.
don't know how you do
She's running
it.
around.
I I'm exhausted all the time, and I mean I have my own boss, so I work when I feel like it, and I'm still just like oh
Right.
um
I'll tell you how I
so
do it. I my doctor has me on um prescription weed out of
dude I
Massachusetts. So
love
it's not
I love weed.
listen, listen. Like I told you earlier before we started the live, I'm having an off day. Listen, I was outside smoking, so I needed to,
Oh,
regroup, right?
literally
And that's
yesterday the baby daddy, he was like, do you have to smoke before every episode? I'm like, yes.
But I mean, it keeps you stable. It keeps you going. It keeps you
Yeah.
focused on what you're doing. And sometimes that's the necessity. And that's why my support system is so amazing because between my wife and my mother, they're like, dude, you're not feeling well, go outside. Get out of our face and go feel better a little bit and then come back and we'll understand, right? And then that's the things that I need. They know where my threshold is, when I'm there at my threshold. And when the fatigue sets in on me and I'm just done, they're just like, you need to keep going. You
Yeah.
need to keep moving. We understand that you're shutting down and your body doesn't want to do anything else anymore, but we need a little bit from you. And as soon as I get that little bit or I go smoke, then I get that little bit, right? And I get that energy to complete the things that I need to do. And then I can allow my body to completely shut down afterwards, right?
Yeah. And it also helps with the shutting down part for me at least. So like
Right,
relax, and after smoking it really helps.
right.
So uh we're getting close to the end. I was gonna say this is a platform I love already, everything that you've said. And what I will say too is that anyone watching this may comment or message me about someone that they may know that can help you. And I will be reaching that out to
I
you or
appreciate
sharing that if you
it.
yeah, anybody who's watching or whatever. I like I said, on Thursday, I'm going to go talk about my experience, but I'm going to start just like super documenting it and figuring out the best options. I got scammed. I would say don't do a lawyer. But see, I don't like your situation's so different. And I don't want to say don't do a
But
lawyer
I've
because
but I've but I've tried the lawyer. I
yeah.
found of it. I Googled it, right?
Did you pay
Like
the
we always do.
lawyer
I
upright
didn't.
or are they going to get a percentage?
I didn't. They needed to take a look at my paperwork first before they were able to do anything. And so I didn't get into the process of getting them to actually do anything for me because they took a look at my prior paperwork from my denial and they were like, we can't do anything to help you. They didn't give me any further steps or help to better it or how they could, try to work with me. No, straight up denial.
That's wild.
That's that's what I said. That's what I said. I literally told them that like that's wild. I looked at that email, I tossed my phone aside, and I continued editing photos because I was just done with it. I was like, you know what? Screw it. Because I'm trying my best. I'm asking for the assistance, but you're telling me that I'm not worth it. So, and that's
Yeah,
the things that fall with us, and it sucks. It truly sucks.
I bet. I bet. So this being a platform that you can say anything, is there anything else that you wanted to say before we ended our session today?
So
Anything you want anyone to know?
So I just want everybody to understand the condition. You know, I'm an advocate for both the veterans' mental health and for multiple sclerosis. Between all of my platforms, I and the picture that you posted for today's it's honestly one of my favorite self portraits that I did of myself because it communicates the emotion that I had that night because I was trying new equipment. I was in pain. It was 12 o'clock at night. I'm sitting in my kitchen taking these photos and testing stuff for to better myself as a photographer. And I was done. I was completely done. My emotions poured into that photo because I was done. It was the last thing I did that night. And I didn't see that photo until I fully put it into the computer and edited it. And that's one of the things that enveloped me into being an advocate here because it's not just about me. There are millions of people throughout the world that deal with this condition, right? And there are a ton of multiple sclerosis walks. There's multiple sclerosis awareness month. There's a ton of things that we can do to help each other because it's not about the money. It's not about, hey, you don't have this condition or, oh my God, you look okay. It's not about those things. It's about the support. Support us to better us. Because if we have your support, we're going to feel like we have a community behind us. We're going to feel a little bit at ease because we know that you're supporting us in what we do, in pushing forward, in not letting this condition debilitate us. And that's what we want most. We want the support, not the push, not the crying, not the any of it. We want the support. Support us in what we're doing, support us in moving forward, support us in the struggle. We're having a bad day, so support us however you can with that bad day. Because a bad day can be turned around, but how you support us is how we turn around that day, you know? And those are the things that are arising, right? And I've spoken with you about my next steps with some of the things that I want to pursue because this year I do want to pursue a it's a picture series. I want to get with veterans and talk about their mental health and see their struggles and their pains through the lens of the camera because sometimes those mental health that mental instability that we can't see it physically, but sometimes our emotions are right here, right in our face, or how we handle ourselves.
Yeah.
And I want to get a and I'm starting to get a traction on it with a couple of the veterans that I've been talking to as far as getting a round table together. I want to do several roundtables with veterans and talk about this, gather their information because we're all together in the same struggle, even though we're generations apart. Because in these generational gaps, where the same struggles arise with us
Yeah,
veterans. And that
absolutely.
series is going to be focused on the different struggles within the veteran community there, right?
I love that.
Right. And
So anyone that is listening, where can they follow you at and see your work?
so I've revamped my Instagram just recently because I want to focus on the new stuff that's coming within 2024. So my photography page is Desisto Caligo Photography. Desisto space Caligo Photography. Right? You can find all my links on that page. I have my artwork up, and I currently have my multiple sclerosis artwork in my studio. So these are twin series that I created for multiple sclerosis. They're orange because orange is the color of multiple sclerosis, And I will be putting these up for sale. They're currently up for sale on my art page, but in the month of March, whoever purchases these two, all the proceeds are going to go to multiple sclerosis awareness and multiple sclerosis society to help better and see if we can find a cure. Because there is no cure for us, but we're trying our best and we keep pushing every day. Some treatments are worse than others, some treatments are harsher than others, but we're going to keep pushing forward the way that we need to.
Absolutely. I love that message. Thank you again so much for taking the time today to come
Thank
talk
you
to
for
me.
having me.
And I hope we can get some answers and I can message you and we can figure it out. So
I would appreciate
thank
it.
you again so
Thank you
much.
so
You are
much.
so
Thank
awesome.
you.
Good
Thank you,
luck.
hon. You have a great
You
one.
too.